It has been a joy going through this series with all of you, and this is the last of the Advent series videos that we are doing. And so with the end, we must go back to the beginning. The need for a Savior started in the garden, the moment God's very creation broke his commands, eating the fruit. And from then, sin entered the world, infecting all of creation. And with this sin, there was judgment, the penalty of death. Something had to bear the punishment to appease for the law that was broken. And so we see in Genesis chapter 3, verse 21, after this sin infestation, the Lord makes tunics of skin to cover Adam and Eve's shame. And the tunics of skin from animals being the first sacrifice to atone for the sin of his creation. Just as these animal skins covered their shame, so the animal sacrifice covered their sin. But this was only the start, because everyone was infected with this sin and everyone was in need of a sacrifice, a sin bearer. And as we see in Romans chapter 3, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So God, through Moses, initiates the sacrificial system, which we see recorded for us in the book of Leviticus. The law was given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and the sacrificial system was ordained by God and placed at the very center and heart of Jewish national life. When the people would sin, they would bring an animal, usually a bull or a goat, without blemish, and they would bring the animal to the tabernacle door, and the person would put his hand on the head of that bull, and they would slay it before the Lord. The animal would therefore bear the sins of the people. And from then on, throughout Israel's history, a cycle had started of sin and sacrifice. The people would sin, and an animal sacrifice was given. But then the people would sin again, and again a sacrifice was needed. In this cycle, it would continue year after year. They would have to continue giving sacrifices to atone for the sins they had committed. And although this was good, it was necessary, it didn't fix the problem. It didn't take away our sin. It merely covered it. It had no power to make us perfect. It had no power to reconcile us back to God. Just as it says in Hebrews chapter 10, it is not possible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. And instead, it left us stuck in the cycle of sin and death, untransformed and unable to be fully reconciled to God. You see, that would be the end of the story. But the sacrificial system that was started long ago was only a picture pointing to the real sacrifice we needed. God was burning into the hearts of every man an awareness of their sin and their need for a Savior. Just as it says in Hebrews, the law was a shadow of good things to come and not the very image of the things. So too, that sacrificial system wasn't the end in itself. It was to point us to our true Savior, to our true sacrifice. The entirety of the Old Testament points to the eternal sacrifice that was to come, given by God to be fulfilled in the Son. And it is in this Christmas season, 2,000 years ago, the reason that we all celebrate this season is this perfect sacrifice was born. Jesus was born to die and do what the sacrificial system could never do. Cleanse of all sins forever, transform the human heart, and end the cycle of sin and death. The sacrificial system was like a band-aid to cover over the sin infection. Jesus is the new body, the new creation. He didn't just cover over, he gives us a new nature. And where the sacrificial system brought death, Jesus brings life to all who believe. So let us remember that this Christmas holiday that we celebrate, the celebration of the birth of Jesus, it points to what he came to do, to be the sacrifice once and for all. We have a sacrifice. We have a Savior, and his name is Jesus.